Right, okay. Has anyone actually heard of PoshUD before I go? Apart from you. Anyone else heard of it? Great, okay. So most people here are probably more familiar with the more traditional uses of PowerShell, which is kind of like, just running scripts or things in the background via the blue and white screen of ISE or whatever color you want for VS Code. Don't use it. So I thought I'd try something different because I came across a funky module recently, and I thought actually that's quite cool, and it helps people that aren't us to kind of see these things. So I made a sway. Now this is my first sway as well, so hopefully it works. Right, and if you're guys, a bit weird, the images do move. Oh, it's quite slow. It's supposed to be smooth. Right, so this is PowerShell Universal Dashboard. Are there any web developers here? Anyone? I see no man buns. No. Okay. So HTML, CSS, JavaScript, React, things like that. Some might have some passing familiarity with some of those. Probably not all of them. Who here has worked with React? Bit of JavaScript or something like that. Most people have kind of tinkered around with it, but I'm the same. I'm not a heavy user. I've done a bit of tinkering, done a bit, but that's the limits of what I do. So this guy, Adam Driscoll, you'll know who he is, and I'm sure most of you, if you don't know who he is, you'll know the Posh tools. Are there any bells? Yeah. A couple of nods. He's the guy that wrote the Posh tools, which you use in Visual Studio, and he's MVP for Microsoft. Does a lot of good work. So I've linked his Twitter and his GitHub. It's worth having a look. And the last one, can I get rid of that text at the bottom? You should be able to just hide it. Okay, not only am I on the there you go. Sorry. And Universal Dashboard, which has been around for a while. It's had a few versions. And that's what I'm going to focus on right now. So we'll go into this. So it's a way of generating dashboards in PowerShell. So you only need kind of a basic understanding of HTML really to understand how to use them. And it builds proper, fully responsive React pages. So using the React JavaScript framework. I think it's a much nicer way and easier way to visualize the data. I mean, how many of you do get service or whatever it is, you pipe it in, put it into a table and you spit out the bits you're interested in, and you look at it and think, okay, well, this is the data I'm interested in. But it's hard to see things like patterns, and it doesn't like auto update unless you hit F5 or F8 a lot. So that's a cool thing. And yes, when you have mastered this, you can wow colleagues and friends with your new skills, your new web development skills, and demand a pay rise from your boss. Trust me. Okay, yep, let's stop talking about nonsense. I'm going to focus on, just for now, these three commandlets: new UD page, new UD dashboard, and start UD dashboard, because that's the basics. And when you see some of the code that I've got, you'll realize there really isn't a lot of code to this. So another funky Sway feature is, this is just a simple variable home page, new UD page. I've called it home, give it an icon. It uses web glyphs or something weird, or one of those weird things. So you get like stacks of inbuilt one. So I just pick the home icon. And then you can see it's basically, there's a large script block of content. And if you're familiar with HTML, tables and grids. So you've got a row, you've got a column, so I've got a row, I've got a column, and I'm just going to have a new UD paragraph with text that says homepage. So if we put that into our script, we have a dashboard, and we say new UD dashboard, my pages. So you can just pass in like an array of pages. I've created obviously just one, remember? So just passing in the home page. And then to run it, you would be, the top is, it runs in the background process. Everything is kind of in run spaces. So you'll F5 it and it'll just appear to stop and not do anything after that. So I always get any running dashboards, stop them, and then start a new one, port, pick a random port, whatever, and pass in your dashboard object. So moving on, what will that give us? That will give us a lovely page in our browser. So this is all kind of built in automatically. So I obviously haven't supplied any of that. Some things you can't get rid of, like I think the licensing information. If you don't license it, it's probably going to stay there. You can customize bits of this, and obviously the title, and there's lots of elements you can kind of add to it.
Sorry, general question. So when your pipe stuff in, will it come in real time? So you put this dashboard in right now, and you get information.
That's static.
Yeah.
It's just going to that page isn't going to do anything.
Okay.
But good question. As I just mentioned, these are the grid layout for anybody that's got any kind of familiarity with web development. You basically got 12 columns. So it's organized in rows. So if you want something to be full page, you say I want a 12-column thing. If you want lots of little things, you say I want a 2-column thing, and it'll space them all that nicely for you. It's got tons of built-in components. I will touch on some of them, but not a lot of them because I'm not that smart. So now this is the same as we had before, except I've got a new UD counter. What's a counter? I've given it a title, and I put it into an endpoint, so it'll run off on its own. And I'm just saying get random number between 1 and 10. Sorry, 0 to 10. Auto refresh means that every second this will auto refresh on the page, and it looks like that, but it'll change. This is something that it's not really much. It's another new UD monitor. Give it a title, make a line with 20 data point history. So you can customize this. You can say I want 10 data points, I want 50 data points. Refresh every second. The endpoints, I'm just doing get counter. So select this. So with a monitor, you have to pass it like a numeric value, pass a string or an array or something like that. It doesn't work very well. So there are other things you can do with those. And you can see I'm basically getting this and passing it to out UD monitor data. So what does this look like? Leave it run for a few seconds and it'll look like this. So the counter is just going to be a single number or something like that, like how many users logged on right now. You have a counter. If you want to monitor, in real time people logging on, you would use a monitor. So that would be an example of that. I've just on the CPU because no one's logging on to anything that I have access to. UD tables, basically it'll generate you an HTML table. So I've selected a few things like computer name, operating system, some disk space that I've got free. And you pipe it out again to have to get a numerator because it's just not good. But maybe you can explain that why. I don't know, it didn't work without it. I had to put the get a numerator on the end, but I don't know. So pipe this out to table data. So the UD table takes the table data that we've got from here, and I'm just say property name and value. So I've got obviously a bit of data to work with, and that will print us a nice little table. So you've got your name. In fact, if I go back, so you could put headers in here to make it nice, so it doesn't have to necessarily match up. This obviously comes out as a name value pair. If I'm saying, well, I want to call it details. So it'll end up looking like this. And that's actually my work PC. Yep, UD grid. So tables are cool, graphs are cool, monitors are cool, grids are even cooler. So I've given this one like processes. So I'm selecting obviously some stuff from get process. So I'm selecting these things here and just pipe the whole lot out into UD grid data, which is going to produce us something that looks a bit like that. Now this is quite cool because this will allow us to sort it. So we can click on the column headers to sort alphabetically or by ID or something like that. And there is a filter there as well. So when you type in like something into your filter, you just get those results out. So it's very cool for if you've got a lot of data. I was talking to one of our guys earlier and I said, look, you're dealing with dozens or hundreds of users and stuff like that. If you want to search for a user, you can just send the whole lot to a grid, a UD grid, and then just type in like the surname or something like that, and it'll actually search for any field. So you could search for something in the working set. So if you search for 119, it would come up with this one only, and it actually just applies to everything. It searches anything in that grid. So let's do some demos, if this works. This is the more fun bit. I'm not very good at presentations, sorry. Well, considering I kind of knocked most of this up when I put my little boy to bed on Saturday night, my missus was out, so I was like, yes, I've got a couple hours free. He wouldn't go to bed until 8:30, but I had a couple hours free. So I've made a very simple dashboard. And so if we just expand this puppy out, you can see actually I haven't got any pages on this one because I've got a single page dashboard. You don't actually have to have pages. So I've got a new UD dashboard with a title and content. So I've got, let's see, some rows. So this is the stuff that basically you've just seen. So I've got two columns that are half the width of the page that print out process time, both 20-point data histories. This one has a 5-second refresh just because probably shouldn't use that counter for that, but it's only an example. So I've got the same thing here, and this is kind of like get process, count all the threads in it. And you can actually pass in other options into these things as well. So if you want to turn off labels or something like that, or if you get overwhelmed with like a million labels on a graph or something like that. So you can do stuff like that. And lastly, I've got my new UD grid at the bottom, which is exactly as I showed you. So if this works, then you should see very similar to what I had just now. So again, I've got a pipe. I get my UD dashboards, pipe into stop dashboard just in case I've got any other ones running, because sometimes I tend to like put them on different ports and run things, as you'll probably notice. So this one I'm just starting on port 80. I think actually you can ignore that and it will just start on port 80 anyway. So I pass my dashboard object in and start locally just so my browser will fire up. Fingers crossed. So there you go. So you saw obviously output from ISE, not VS Code, because it's horrible, and it works even worse with this. So you can see literally it says, hey, dashboard running true. So I'm using the full version of this. It is a paid for product, but it's not expensive to start with. I'm cheap, so I still haven't paid it. This means that this will run for 60 minutes. So if you do want to use a dashboard yourself and you just want to play with all the features, you can still use it, but it's only going to run for 60 minutes. You can pay a license fee. It's about $90 or something like that. So unlock the whole thing for a year or something like that. But there is also a community edition, which has a slightly different feature set. It's got 95% of it, but I think there's things like certain graphs that aren't in the community edition, and I think authentication. So you can like force users to, you can have like login pages and stuff. I haven't gone that far into it. So I just use I'm cheap, I just use the Universal Dashboard trial account. So unfortunately, click that and it refreshes the page. So you can see, yeah, it's just basically going to refresh constantly. So you'll note actually I color the chart slightly different as well. So I gave a bit of color to this one. This one I just used the default. And there are themes you can use. So there's a bunch of inbuilt themes like Azure or Olive or something like that, whatever. So I find the basic one quite functional. So we've got that. We've got my server information here. Nice little donut chart here where I can mouse over and say, oh, Windows Azure telemetry service, 24 threads. Wow. And here, if I want to search for process, I could just type it and it just does that. Or if I know what process is, I can do 2212 and it'll just pull out that one. Or something 0.1, it'll pull out everything that's not 1 in that column. So it's quite actually handy. This is all just running in my browser. So, I've actually have done a few of these things, and I've just sent people like, just browse to my machine, go to this like port sort of thing, and people can see it. It's a lot better for people that hey, here's a PowerShell script, run this. They're like, yeah, what am I looking at? But you give them something like this, and you can see immediately what's going on. This is, as I've called it, a simple dashboard. You can see it's still running, although close the browser, it's actually still running. So that's my computer. Oops. So it's still running, you know, so I can just go away and leave it. And I've got 57 more minutes. Don't worry, it won't take that long. I will be done, hopefully, by then. So just kill it off. Done. That is a simple dashboard. However, I've done a bit more than that because I thought that's pretty basic. No one's really going to be interested in that. You know, who's interested in what's running on your machine or whatever? For the eagle-eyed among you, you may have noticed I've got a little Bitcoin icon. Anyone like Bitcoin? No? God.
It wasn't bad.
Yeah. You get together a bunch of nerds and no one likes Bitcoin. Come on. Must be someone. Right. The Bitcoin Core software I will fire up. And I will open another. Right. So is it running? Yes, I only just installed it on this machine. It's got a JSON RPC API, so you can send you know, like JSON requests to it, and it will respond and say what's going on. So I'm currently on the May 13th, 2012, a little bit far behind. I use all the dog internet connection to. Don't worry, it's running Azure. It's coming out of my credits. So I was thinking, I can't install it on this machine because this is my laptop. But I thought if I did, I wonder if you guys would be like, what the hell's going on in there? You've done it like 15 gigs. So don't look too close. I'll go into that later. There you go. So this monitors that node. I've got a couple of little simple counter monitors going in, so you can see the block height, and it's downloading new blocks and stuff. That's going up. Difficulty won't actually go up as fast because that changes less regularly. One thing I can't do is refresh this. This is the block hash of the block that I had when I launched it. So if I refresh the browser, I think, yeah, it's changing. But that doesn't auto refresh because that's a different type of component. It doesn't have the auto refresh property, which is a little bit irritating. So like you can see, I'm connected to 8 peers, so 8 other nerds out there running the Bitcoin software. If we go to peers, you can see that's exactly what I've got right here. Oh. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 7, 8, and 9. Just the ID is fine. Some of them drop off and then they just use the next ID every time. So I thought I'd just have a nice cool way of visualizing this. And I wanted to put the network traffic into a nice monitor or chart or something like that. I didn't do that because it's a little bit more complicated. But you can see it's just, you know, it's just updating in real time. All the people sharing their blocks with me up to block 187,000 in 2012. It's like, well, that's all very cool. But, you know, what else can we do? So let's just click this block. So I want to see what block this is. It's going to be a block height, 184,000. Got a block time. This all comes straight out of the RPC API. So it's got 512 transactions in it. 512 nerds spending their Bitcoins. Because you're a bit of a block size, block confirmations. You can see that number should go up if I refresh it as it's downloading the blockchain in the background. If you've got a block and someone builds a block on top of it, you've got a confirmation. As I'm currently downloading, I'm way behind, so that's going to go up quite fast. And I built a nice little. This doesn't fit very well on this monitor. My monitor at home is lovely, all side by side. But I'd like previous block, current block, next block. You can just click between them, and maybe I should just go with a current block or something. But they were side by side, so you can just literally, or if I go back in time, so 184,066, 65, it's just firing off to my poor little Bitcoin node that's struggling to download everything. And so those 111 transactions, I put them in a nice little grid here so we can page through it all. And I did make a page that you can click and view the actual transaction, but it doesn't work. So there's work to do on it. I thought, what else is really cool about Bitcoin? None of you will say anything. It's terrible. Sell, sell, sell. I thought, hey, I like to see the price of it. So currently $8,000. So I thought quite interesting because there's multiple exchanges and they'll have slightly different prices. So I want to see what people are bidding versus what people are asking for them. So you can see that there's a $3.52 difference on Bitstamp between what people are offering to buy it for and those selling.
So you could use it to pick which exchange you want.
Yeah. If you want to transfer money around to do a bit of arbing or something like that, you can make a bit of cash on the side or Bitcoins on the side, and nobody knows about it. So I haven't done any of that, don't worry. And I can see the little emoji, little icons here, so a little red icon, because this doesn't bloody work. Let's run it again. It seems to be a bit flaky, this one. Am I refreshing it properly, or is this laptop? No. So this is actually quite simple. So it may work in a bit. Sometimes I have to restart it. Don't know why it doesn't work. So done some bit more funky stuff with this. So obviously I've got a few pages here. So I was like, it's a bit much to be fitting onto one page. So you can see I've made 5 different pages there. Now the last 2 obviously didn't appear in, where is it? In the menu, because they're dynamic pages. So although I say my pages are home page, prices page, Reddit page, transaction page, and block page, obviously the block page doesn't appear because it's dynamic. You have to pass in like the block hash in order for it, the Bitcoin software to actually pull it back and show you the information, because otherwise it won't have anything. It's useless. And you'll see this little init bit here, which is new, I think. I don't think it's in the community edition. So basically, I made a module with a very simple little function, and I pass that in, or create an init object, and then when I start my dashboard, I have this endpoint initialization script. Because things run in their own run spaces, you know, if you load a module, if I load a module here, as you can see, I did it actually at the top. It's not actually accessible, so I couldn't use it in the endpoint. So use this endpoint initialization script, and that gets passed through to all the pages. The endpoints, basically, they're all called endpoints. Start a dashboard there, no problem. So, like, okay, we've seen enough about Bitcoin. We just want to see the code. So, yeah, homepage, just a bunch of counters. Calls my get Bitcoin info function. You can see they're all passing in methods. So I've got to get Bitcoin info, which just literally says, you know, what do you want to call on this? So I'm just passing in get block count, get difficulty, get the results out of it, because it's chasing things, get the results. And that's sort of refreshing. So various little bits here. And then I've got my counter for peers and my UD table with all the peers in. So you can see I'm just basically, what I could probably do actually, if I run this. Okay, my super secure username and password is just made up on the spot. So I should be able to select this. Annoyingly, the F8 is bound to some monitor thing. So yeah, if you just look at the get block count, I can just run that, and yeah, it goes up. This is probably what you're used to doing, isn't it? Select some text and just F8, F8. Oh yeah, that's done. It's finished now. My job's done. So I just got a few samples in here and just say, you know, what does that do? That gives me all the information that I put on the other page. So these are the objects that obviously are just being returned. So let's just find a nice way to put it on the page. The home page was, again, pretty basic. Just a bunch of counters and things. I would like to have put some charts in there. Sorry, I let you down. The pages. The block page is interesting because, as you can see, it didn't appear in the menu, so you can't actually navigate to it directly. It's a dynamic page. So you can see the URL that it has. So the home page doesn't have that. The home page just says, it just says, and it's a new UD page with a name and an icon, but the block page being a dynamic page, you can pass in this ID parameter, and then I just create a variable, because obviously we use it a lot, with the ID in. So that's how it gets through to the back end. Create myself a UD card, new UD row, and then I just say, you know, how many confirmations, what's its size, what's its height, what's its version, stuff like that. Yeah, how many transactions, put them into a nice grid and select like certain properties or whatever you want from it. And oh yeah, this is fun bit. So to create the links, as you saw when I was printing out my computer info or some of that, or threads or whatever it is, it's just text. You know, that's really boring. You want something to click on. You want to get through to this page, so you can click on a block and see how many transactions are in it and stuff like that. So you've got to create this new UD link. Use that commandlet. So I've given it a label, transaction. So that's why it appeared. Sort of properties. This is selecting the transaction from here. So I'm doing a select. So I've got the block selectors, which is just a massive list, and then I select them all, call it transaction, create myself a link on it, and that's why they appear as. Probably doesn't help that I'm still running bit control, aren't I? I'm going to help my internet. So that's how I managed to get, you know, all these as clickable links, and the same with the next block and previous block. So this is like the previous block. Each block has a property, so it knows what the previous block was and what the next block is. So it's a blockchain. So all I need to do is say the block that you are, what's your previous hash, and create a new UD link out of it. So that's how it appears. So nice on the screen. Yeah, prices again is actually, I had to do this because one of them is through a fit, and this use unsafe header password stole from the internet shamelessly, because Bitstamp, I think, was throwing it over. So literally I just invoke REST methods, stuff them into variables, you know, get the asks, get the bids, display on the page. So they're not refreshed. One downside to the way I've done this is I've got the dashboard page and I've included a bunch of pages in it. You'll notice on my dashboard, I've just said, you know, join path, PoshUD path, so it's going to go look for the home page and it's going to go and get that, load that. The prices, therefore, are not going to be like auto refreshed or anything like that. So I just, you know, created an object calling a REST method, give it a format and to display it. So you can hit refresh, thinking the price is going down, no, and nothing actually happens, doesn't move, and everyone says, hey, did you miss everyone just sold? No, penniless, work for us for our lives. So what you can do, you can create a scheduled endpoint. So you set up a new UD schedule and say I want to run this every 10 minutes or something, and then you create an endpoint. Although I've been using endpoints, so I would say this new UD counter has an endpoint, and the code I've put into that is, you know, generating that. But you can just literally create an endpoint, say like my endpoint, and put a script block in it. And then you can say, you know, run this on this schedule, and it would actually update it. You could then maybe cache the results. So if I get the price out of it, I can cache the price and then use it on any page. So there's quite a few things like that built into it. So there are ways around it. Like I say, I only had a couple of hours and I didn't bother. But if any of you fancy playing with it, they are quite good. You know, you can certainly use them. And there was something else. Yeah, the bit that didn't work. Reddit page. It does work, trust me. Well, let's see. No. So if I no. Yeah, there's all my posts. Why aren't they appearing on the page? The previous version of this, I updated this dashboard to the latest version so I could use that new UD endpoint initialization script or whatever it is. The previous version didn't have that. It just timed out after an hour and then said your license is expired or something like that. So this one is a little bit irritating. Yeah, there we go. Finally. So just pulling data straight off Reddit. Whilst I'm catching up and browsing, internet, I can check to see how my blocks are coming along. Yeah, but it's just fully linked straight through. So you can follow that through. That's just all the latest posts on the Bitcoin stuff. So back to the code for that. Nothing magical. We're just saying, right, okay, call this REST method. I don't know if you use Reddit, but if you put .json on the end of stuff, it just gives you a JSON format of that page. So you can go to like the latest post or something like that. And yeah, it's great. But do you use that? I think you can request like different formats, like probably XML or something like that. So great thing with UD invoke REST methods, just deal with it. So again, I'm doing select object score, and then I'm creating a new UD link because all the other hyperlinks stuff I always seem to play up. So I'm going to create a new UD link, give it the title of the post and the URL, open your window. So it's just all built in. So if I say, hey, what's this? It's going to open me up a nice YouTube video. It's running on Wi-Fi to my remote machine. Let's not watch that. So yeah, so I've got all this stuff here, and so you'll see it's got these funky types. How are we doing with time actually? I'm massively overrun.
10 minutes.
What, left or overrun?
Left.
Okay, that's fine by me. So yeah, that's just, this is what people are probably more familiar with, running something like this, getting this data and then, formatting it or filtering it or something like that. But chucking it into a browser, I think is awesome. And, like say if your boss, you've got like a non-technical boss or something like that, say, just have a nice, I'll make a nice graph out of that, have some auto-refreshing thing that's just like, it could be, wow, that's amazing. Let's have your annual review now. Maybe don't. Maybe don't do that.
If you looked into inputs.
Yes, you can. I actually haven't done any ever. I had a bit of a play with them, but I think, did they build a chat program? I think they built like a two-way chat. So everyone could just fire it up and just chat the same thing. So you've got the auto refreshing component that is basically going to like have all the text and stuff in. So you open your browser, say your thing, F off, and then everyone else gets it. And it's like, who sent that? I don't know. So I think that's a basic overview of what I did here. That's again, this is pretty basic stuff. Don't think there's anything funky in it. I'd like to put more charts or graphs or something into it, chart things over time, whatever. But you need kind of the historical data to do that. And this obviously doesn't really have it. I'm going to stop this. I don't read or download everything, which will just kill it. Not very good error handling, sorry. So anything that was auto-refreshing is now not auto-refreshing. But the rest of it, like I say, still works. I mean, that's it really for me. That was kind of like, as far as I've used it, just to build dashboards. I was chatting to one of our guys at work, and I was like, you're dealing with all the users. You could literally have a dashboard that shows all the users when they last had bad passwords entered or whatever. Who's locked out of the system right now? You can get that information already. And often people say to you, like, oh, who's actually locked out? Just run it and say, oh yeah, Joey over there's like, just passed wrong 3 times, he's locked out. But actually you could pull that information out and potentially have it on a big monitor or something like that. It supports things like citing pages. So if you had multiple pages or something like that you want to show off, you can just set it to cycle through on every 30 seconds or a minute or something like that, cycle through to the next page. Obviously, it would probably screw up all your nice monitors with nice graphs because they'll start again. But just for actual information, fetch all your data out of Google Analytics, hand people how much money burning to get people to the site or something. Yeah, and I've done a lot of stuff in Azure as well. So if you authenticate with Azure, you can obviously just go nuts, say get all your Azure cloud services or something like that, or list all your storage accounts. I had one, so I got a SQL one, which obviously I can't show you because it's all our work related stuff. So a SQL one that has a live refresh of the error logs as they're piling into our database. You have to kind of cap it because it takes a long time to generate the page sometimes. But it is quite handy just to sit there and you just see stuff kind of coming in and have a monitor to show the number of logs as it someone hits a site and the errors go up and something's wrong. So and you can just use obviously invoke SQL command, get the thing out of it and just say chuck it into a table or something like that. So it's really handy for that. And then I was like, well, to go that level further, I was like, say, okay, get me all my SQL servers in Azure. And then for each server, it would list all the size and the databases on it, the firewall rules and things like that. So they're just using the bog standard SQL Azure commandlets that anybody would have no problems running. But it's just a nice way to display it because you miss a lot when you're just dealing with the console. So you don't dive into things you do, or if you're using the Azure portal, you don't go into every single database and check the firewall rules on them. But I was like, we need to make sure that that IP address isn't whitelisted in any of our SQL databases. But obviously I've got a list of them all. I can just click on them and firewalls are this. Okay, no problem. Click firewalls are this. So you could just run a plain old PowerShell script, but I wrote a dashboard for it. So it just worked well. I don't know. 8 o'clock. Any questions? You got a minute?
I'll be asking you a couple of questions if you don't mind.
Yeah, sure.
After the event.
Oh, no, I'm not selling. I'm not selling.
No, the reason being, I like the web side of it, the browser side. We can all get the data.
Yeah.
It's like the way it's explained it. That's why I like it.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. It's like there's times when like you say you lose data or something like that, or you lose the visibility of it. We're switching the way we handle our releases internally at work, and we've got stuff that's happening in Azure pipelines. Now I want to know how many releases we've done into our live environment today or this week or something like that. And obviously the managers are asking stuff. You can't get that information out of the Azure portal. It's just so you might as well just write.
When they present stuff like the board meetings and things, they want something graphical.
And do that, and then you ask your playwrights. All my awesome reporting skills. Then you realise that actually it's just half a dozen lines of PowerShell. It's there really is not a lot to do this. You just say I'm going to run this commandlet or something like that, and that's a simple one. So you literally say, just get counter and just pipe it out into a monitor, and you get yourself a nice graph out of it. People say, wow, that's really good. It's like, it's literally one line PowerShell, and just use this nice function. So there's a whole load. I mean, I could probably go through documentation, but I don't want to drag on. You've got some stuff to do.
No, what I want to ask you is show the 2 pages, PowerShellUD.com and documentation. Because the PowerShellUD.com is basically like a demo site, and you can see all the different elements, components you can put on the site. It's very nice.
Yes. So, who's the hipsters in here now? We're all the hipster web devs. We can all do it. Come on, you literally just need to install this thing. One thing, word of caution though, before that, you need PowerShell Get version 2. So you have lots of you have to update. I didn't have it already, so I had to update it, and then trying to load version 1 and complain to you had to use PowerShell Get version 2, and then obviously there's license requirements and things for this. That so I can probably click this, but is this one you talk about?
Yeah, there's a huge documentation.
Yeah, sorry, I should probably have gone through the documentation a little bit.
And the other site you could show is PoshUD.com, the demo site.
Yeah. So this one has been around for a lot longer, and sometimes it's a bit broken. So I'm not the only one that does it. So they've got like full examples and documentation, and you can download the code that he used to generate all this, I think. So there literally are a whole handful of components that you can use. So you say, like, I want charts. You can have the regular charts I use. You can have some of these. He's got some of them like auto refreshing and stuff like that. So you can make your nice charts or that. Oh, that one did update, didn't it? It's a slow refresh. So, and you can create your own components, but they're all basically in here. You've got your monitors, which I use. Preloads, if you have something that's going to run 5 minutes to run your PowerShell script, you can have like preloaders to, please wait, hamster wheel going. So you got your tables, your text boxes, REST APIs as well. So you'll produce REST APIs. You don't just have to consume the code. You can actually produce them, because this is kind of geared. You can run this as a website. I've got a full DevOps pipeline actually that kind of slurps it all up, packages it up, deploys it to a web app in Azure. Does it work? So that's probably me. It's not this. It's going to be something I've done. So it could be a little bit like finicky and tricky to get going, but it's all doable. You have it running on the machine, so there's no reason why you can't host it in like IIS or chuck it into Azure or something like that. So I did try. I didn't get it working. I didn't get too much time to try getting it working. I thought it'd be rather have something actual to show that people say, oh yeah, actually that does look good. So it's got billions of font awesome. That was it, font awesome. So you got all the fonts and stuff you could possibly need in any color, shape, or size. And so that was the old documentation. That was basically what you had before. You had some terrible GitHub documentation, which you may stumble across if you do look for this. But it gives a full breakdown. See, there is actually running Azure. So he does say he does tell you how to create something and run it in Azure. So as long as you're not accessing your corporate stuff or something like that, then it should work. And this one here, it lists all the components. So you've got a whole bunch of stuff, like if you want to change the fab icon or something like that. Somewhere. Have a look at that. In fact, I thought his comparison page wasn't working either. There you go, 49.99. So it's not expensive, really, for what it is, if you're going to use it.
But they can't be used like corporate, or is it kind of a licensing?
No idea. I don't pay for it. So I think it's a drag and drop sort of like some license file or something like that. It'll just be free. Like I don't know whether it's this version or whether it's a timestamp thing. So trying to make some money off this because he's doing a lot of work for this. He's done a lot of work for this. So to give him credit, I probably should be paying for it. You be you. So basically it's like anything you kind of want to present or do anything. It's a much nicer way for people that don't want to be sent a PS1 script and run it.
Because I've been asked a lot of questions around this for quite some time. I've kind of gone away from it because I'm busy doing everything.
That cute girl in sales that says, "Hey, can you get me the latest sales figures?" You're like, I got you covered. You send her a PowerShell 1 script, she will not be going home with you at the Christmas party. But you send her a nice little dashboard that tracks over time. She'll love it. Absolutely.
I want to say thank you.
So, any other questions? Sorry, I have one over.
Yeah, what I wanted to say is don't only look about this as a dashboard. You can make an interactive application out of this.
Oh, wait, I've got so many thoughts running in my head right now. Like
as we had just discussed, you could make this dashboard where someone can get their graph or the Excel file, and they can enter some data into the form, and then it produces the report.
Yeah, you're right. I've got so many thoughts in my head right now, like running around. Like that's why I said to you, I'll speak to you.
I'm not going home to do the Christmas party.
The other two which are showed on the screen with the user creation. You could create your own user creation tool. If you like host this dashboard in a container or an IS somewhere, you could basically create a dashboard, an interactive dashboard for your actors, and then they can create users or disable and enable users. So you can use this as basically as a way to delegate access to them, because the script runs with elevated access, but the person logging in.
I know they see the front side there, like that's it. Yep.
Yeah. And, so you got your forms basically. You can kind of create and chuck whatever you want on them. Your normal kind of validation, because we all validate our modules and scripts.
And you can use the same dashboard, running dashboard with authenticated sites. So you might have a public page on the dashboard which everyone can see. Maybe a help site or so, like a wiki. But then if someone wants to access this hidden site, they log in with their AD credentials or whatever.
Yeah.
And then they can access the site and can do something more. Yeah. It's really powerful.
Yeah.
I saw this demo at the summer. They're like, whoa.
He has a community as well, doesn't he? So they got a whole community with a lot of help requests, and there's some show off your own dashboards and things like that, where people will say, I made this cool dashboard that show orders placed with SQLDB. So if you want any ideas of what people are doing with it, this is what they're doing. AD honeypot user management, knob control. You can write your own components as well. It's fully extensible, so you can just if there is something that you want from it, you can always create your own. It doesn't look too hard. Again, I didn't look into it. Autodesk license dashboard.
I think for the price tag is really awesome.
Yeah.
Because you can run the community edition for free forever. With the, as I said, you have some restrictions. But if you buy the enterprise version, there is like two flavors.
Yeah.
The 50 US is the enterprise edition with community support, so you would use this forum.
Yeah.
Or there's the $100 variant where the author will support you guys.
Oh yeah, I see. Yeah.
And the pricing is per dashboard. So if you have a running instance of the dashboard, that's you pay for this.
Yeah.
It's not like you pay for the dashboard and then you use it on 5 different.
Yeah, that's the question.
Yeah, I looked at this because it isn't obvious. But it's on a different page where they say it's the pricing is per dashboard you're running.
Oh really?
Well, it's dirt cheap if you really think about it.
But how many tools do you get that charge per job? Essentially.
Yeah, then I suppose you end up. I've done a fair few myself for various things that I'm working on. I just knock stuff up and encourage other people to have a play with it and stuff like that. So, for a lot of people, like maybe a community edition is more than enough. But if actually doing a bit more with it, then there's value in it. At least it supports his work, because the amount of work it's really quite a lot of work that he's put into this.
And that's a lot of payment.
It's 1 year, so it's sort of a one-off payment.
Yeah.
You get a license forever, but after a year you don't get any updates anymore. That's what I was
licensed per dashboard instance. That's a bit sneaky.
That's not sneaky. I mean,
it's like, just pay for this, and it's like.
I think he's probably going to have like a cheaper price for renewals. I think. I don't know.
Yeah.
Email
support.
It's not expensive, really not.
No. There you go. Yeah. So these are the differences between the community edition. Certainly, there's some of the main differences between it. So you got authenticated dashboards over auth forms, integrated SSO, stuff like that. You're not going to get on the community edition. Authenticated REST APIs.
Every company would pay for that. If you knock up such a dashboard on the trial version, and then you go to your boss and say, "I've created this, and we need to splash out $50 US for community support," it was a we give it to you out.
So, then you put your request into finance.
Cool, awesome. Thank you so much.
Yep. Okay. No more questions.